Well, hey there, folks. Good afternoon, good evening. It's about 4:30 here right now, so that's why I'm saying that. Anyway, before we get into the video, before we get into today's video, rather, I just want to say, if you like the videos, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications when new videos drop. Anyway, I'm going to dive right into it. This one is going to be in regards to the incident that took place in Minnesota approximately 4 days ago. I had waited some time before I was going to come out and make my sort of opinion about this known. I myself am somebody who can run on emotion sometimes. I think anybody who has a soul is somebody who can run on emotion sometimes. Well, I'm going to try really hard not to do that for this one, okay? So let's start with breaking down what we know, okay? A woman who was driving through the streets where there was ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement duties, whatever you want to call it, raid, whatever it is you want to call it, happening, was killed by one of these ICE agents who was, carrying out a duty, whatever it was, okay? We know that happened. Therefore, we don't need to question how it happened. But I think the real question is why it happened and did it need to happen? I'll get into what my opinion is on that for, later. But we have a few videos. There's a few angles of things that were taking place. And I think really at the end of the day, it really comes down to watching the videos, which I have several times. And, separating what you see from what the legalities are of things. And again, I'm going to do the disclaimer of I'm not giving anyone legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. I'll leave the expertise for those things to legal professionals. Okay, I'm not a legal professional, but I do know some about the law. So let's jump right into the potential legalities of the situation. Okay. This person went into this situation. There is some evidence that we have to decide whether we trust the source of or not, that had stated that, her wife had admitted to bringing her to the situation, convincing her to go into that situation. And it said, it's my fault she's dead because I told her to go there. I don't know that we can trust the sources of where that came from or not. I don't know that we can't, but I don't know that we can either. Therefore, I'm going to leave that as it is for now. Okay, I'm going to leave that for what it was. It's something that, supposedly happened. I'm not sure that we have any proof that that happened. But anyway, the bottom line is there's some talk about how that may have happened. When I'm going to start off with legalities here, I'm going to start off with the role of law enforcement in we'll call it the urban environment. Okay? There are different agencies on different levels of government. You have city, which is going to be your city police. In this particular case, Minneapolis PD. Okay? Then you're going to have Minnesota State Police, which is going to be anywhere from state troopers who run the highway to state police that do a variety of they have a variety of other functions from a law enforcement perspective. Okay, I know quite a bit about this, but this is kind of generally how that works. Then you have your, I almost left one out. Then you have your county sheriffs, which is a county thing. And then we go all the way up to federal. Well, ICE are federal immigration enforcement agents or officers or whatever you want to call them. They're either one is correct as far as I'm concerned. They are tasked with very specific duties and very specific jurisdictional restrictions. Go on Google, you can look all this stuff up, and you can find valid sources for this on the internet. So I don't want, if anyone wants to try to argue that that's not true, go read it before you want to try to do that, okay? Because that's where I got this information from, okay? Is some reputable sources, in my opinion, on the internet, okay? They have a very specific role that they are filling. And the reality at the end of the day is those officers that were asking this woman to get out of her car, I don't think we can call that a lawful command. However, watching a few of the video footage, video clips that have come out, it's very difficult to see whether she actually struck the man with her car. Well, there was one where you could very easily see that she grazed the guy with the vehicle. Now, some of the other things that I have seen, lead me to believe that he pulled his gun out before that even happened. Which, I look at that and I'm like, well, why did you have your gun out in the first place? Now, I would also point out that the gentleman also had his phone out and was recording things, which is a whole nother situation in and of itself. And that raises a lot of questions about the validity of the stops, the validity of the order that came out of the gentleman's mouth, and a lot of that. Okay, so there's a lot of question marks still on the situation. We're 4 or 5 days out from it happening, and we still have a lot of question marks. And that right there, I know there's going to be a lot of folks, especially in the law enforcement community, they're going to say, well, that's just common for yeah, but there's something more suspicious about the fact that we still have a lot of question marks. Now, let's get into what I think. Do I think that this needed to happen? Absolutely not. I think this was completely unnecessary. I think that it was bad decisions were made all around on both parties. Okay, because this is one thing we're not going to do, and I'm not going to do this on this channel, is I'm not going to one-side things. Okay? Every situation has two sides, if not more, at the very freaking least. Does it excuse the death of somebody? It absolutely does not. Okay? The only thing I can say about the only thing I'm going to say in terms of my opinion about the ICE agent is that, I think that there should be some consequences for that. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say anything else. Again, I'm trying to keep this as cordial, as objective as I possibly can. So we're going to leave out the emotional opinions here out of the situation. But I don't think it needed to happen. I really don't think it needed to happen at all. And let's get into more of the legality stuff in it. So I started off with talking about how different jurisdictional lines and whatnot. Well, a local PD like Minneapolis Police is going to have jurisdiction over the whole city. And if this woman had encountered a Minneapolis police officer and done that and then got shot, we'd be having a very different conversation. I still don't think certain types of people would have reacted any differently, but it would have been different than it is now. I absolutely believe that that's true. Okay? So, really, at the end of the day, I really don't see how we go back from this in any type of way. It's really bad. It's really bad what happened. It's really bad what's been happening. And I really honestly think that, we need to rethink our values. We need to rethink what we think is important. as a society, as a population. We need to rethink what we're doing very majorly. Anyway, so let's go back to the legality part of it. I'm not going to cite case law, but I am going to bring up one particular case that was recent, I believe 2025 at some point, maybe in the summer, something like that, where the Supreme Court had made claims about federal agents having less jurisdiction and less authority inside of city limits, except when it comes to specific enforcement, which is exactly what ICE agents are. And so the Supreme Court has already made claims and ruled about this. And so at the end of the day, that's definitely a huge part of the legalities part of this. But let me go ahead and also say that if this went into a courtroom, there would be a lot of questions from prosecutors, defense attorneys, and a jury about what the woman was doing at this place anyway in the first place. Okay, and this is typical court stuff. Everyone's going to ask questions about both sides of something. And that's an important thing to think about. It's definitely something that's going to happen. Now, we may not get there. I don't know that this is ever going to go to a court. I'm not sure that this is ever going to see a courtroom. I'm just going to be honest with you. I really don't think that it is. I think that we are in a place where it's just not standard for law enforcement to have any type of accountability when they make bad mistakes that cost people their lives. Okay? Let me rephrase that. Any type is strong enough. There's definitely been some accountability. Let's not sit here and say that there hasn't. Anyway, I don't want to get off on that tangent too much, but what I do want to say is that it's very likely that there'll be a lot of questions about both sides of the story in a courtroom. I sit pretty well in the center of the arguments on the situation because I look at it and I'm like, why would you go into the situation like that? There would be maybe a very, very limited set of circumstances where I might go into a situation like that. I wouldn't put myself in that situation. The one thing I will argue, there are many other ways to protest things than in person. A lot of people are going to jump down my throat for that. Please go in the comments and tell me what you think. Seriously, but that's the way I look at it. Really, at the end of the day, like I said, I sit right in the center. I think that there was mistakes made on both sides of the situation, but it did not need to cost a woman her life. It did not need to cost a daughter a mother. It did not need to cost a little girl a mother, okay? It did not need to cost a significant other another significant other, okay? It did not need to do those things. There's no question in my mind it did not need to do that. And it is really somewhat important to think about those things, and I'm going to go ahead and say this, and again, I want people in the comments section to chime in here. I think there's a lot of people that don't have that type of empathy for others, that are just basically like, they don't like her because she tried to, in their mind, try to run over an agent of the law who was trying to do his job. I've seen a lot of this stuff all over the internet. And the only thing I'm going to say about that is law and order does not mean lawlessness when it comes to law enforcement. Law enforcement has to follow the law the same way that the rest of us do. Otherwise, what are we? I'll let you guys answer that for yourselves. I'm not going to say it, but I asked that question. Otherwise, what are we? Okay? So I want to get that off right off the bat. I want to get that out there. There was something else that got brought up on another channel that I watch where somebody accused a video of being AI. And this is the video that actually shows, a potential striking point of the vehicle hitting the gentleman ICE agent. Okay? There was some people that had said that it was AI, had said that it was sped up and that it wouldn't, and that twisted the way it actually looked. And a few of these other things. And I kind of look at that and I'm just like, where are you getting that from? Okay. And plus, do you have proof? And where I saw it, they went and did some research and looked into it and they did not find any evidence that it was sped up or that it was AI. There are very specific markers in a video. I'm a media person. I know a lot about video editing and things like that. And there are very specific markers that you can find to look at something, whether something is AI or not, as well as whether the speed has been doctored or coloring or something has been blurred out. All kinds of different things you can look at that might show that. So there was no evidence of that. And that to me, that is just a response from people who don't want to believe what they're seeing in front of their face. I am also a firm believer that a lot of us, not only do you let emotions run your thinking, but you also let other people's opinions influence your own, maybe a little bit too much. And for me, it's always been like, people I like to watch on YouTube or on the internet. Oh, yeah, what a horrible thing because this person said it was. Well, I started realizing that I had to form my own opinion and not allow someone else to take a complete control over that idea. And I have to do better. And I think that's an important realization that I had made at a particular point in time, that I needed to do better with that. I think that's really all I have for this one, guys. So I think I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Once again, if you liked the video, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button and that bell so you get notified when I post new videos. Anyway, everyone have a good evening. Bye-bye.